Okay, great. So you are online already at this point, and my presentation is going to focus on how we can actually take it up a notch. Okay, so the presentation objectives are to increase awareness about the course design in itself and why it is important, discuss some theoretical considerations. We're not going to go into details, just touch them a little bit, and then I'll share some examples throughout. So I'm going to start actually with a quick poll with everyone about use of your learning platform. So if we could share that first poll very quickly, that would be awesome. The question basically is, which learning platform do you use? And there's some options, whether you use Canvas, Moodle. I know there's other platforms out there, Blackboards, eCollege. And then whenever we have a good sense of where, which platform people are using, we can move forward. Simply so that I know the examples I'm sharing are making sense for most people, that's all. So do we have any feedback on the poll? Okay, so that's all right. Hopefully, many of you are using Canvas, so hopefully the examples I'll share will make sense. Now, okay, great. Thank you very much. So we have 80% of the responses, basically, of the participants in this session are using Canvas. Not that these concepts that we're going to use can't apply in other models, in other platforms. It's just simply, so that I'm referring to that terminology a little bit more. So as you know by now, there's several factors that affect academic quality in general and student engagement in general. For today, though, all I'm focusing on is course design. So that bubble right there. And we will also see that course design relates to a lot of other aspects here, with the objectives, the time span, all of those. So in the background, we have here the Canvas platform. And I want to start by saying, why is the platform important? Because it is part of the structure, and structure is a very important aspect of quality, right? We have that structure available to make it possible to hold that information that we want to share with students. We want that structure to be able to enable communication with our students and to be able to generate or to facilitate engagement, if you will. So I was attending a student session earlier on, around 12, I believe, and some of the points that they were bringing up, I'm not sure if anybody else attended that, but I was curious to hear what some of the challenges they were facing were. I asked my own students, but it was nice to hear some others. And one of the challenges was actually being able to see the materials on the platform, on Canvas specifically, they mentioned, or finding the information in Canvas. So while it is easy to use, perhaps we want to make sure that the way we organize the information that we put on Canvas Course Shell, it follows a certain order, and it makes it more user-friendly from a student's perspective, because they are our clients in a way. That's the audience. We also realize that the platform is important to provide flexibility for various modules. For example, if you're teaching another course next semester and you want to refer to something you used in the prior course, you could take that and use it without having to start from scratch. And then it should be able to accommodate multimedia, and Canvas does a really awesome job with that. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, platform is just like the classroom that we would use in person. Course design is a little bit different, right? Because here we want to incorporate the structure, the processes, and the methods that we put in place to facilitate the learning environment. So some aspects that the students were bringing up earlier was I could not see the course materials, as I mentioned, sometimes because the release date wasn't set up in a proper way, or maybe the time span that was provided for them to complete certain things just did not really work well. And then that would lead into perhaps emails to the instructors, and the instructor realizing, okay, they didn't have enough time, providing a couple more days to push back, and so things of that nature. If we consider those things up front, then we can have a smoother experience throughout, with less stress and with more time to plan and focus on the activities rather than, oh, when is something going to become available? Okay, so access is very important from that perspective. Layout, how we put together the objectives, readings, multimedia, and how well they are aligned among each other. Something else that matters here is the clarity in the content delivery, the expectations, grading, rubrics, and all of those. Organization, there were comments earlier on about the confusion and not being able to find things because they look different, especially from course to course. And that we realize, it depends on the professors and the way they set it up, the course content and all of that. But perhaps some clarity and systematic use and labeling system would be helpful. Okay, and the last piece that we're going to touch is the methodology. I'm going to also share some screens later on so we can make sense of what those alignments look like. So when we are addressing all of these aspects, basically, I want to bring something else that we haven't thought of until now, that whatever we're putting in the course in Canvas, it becomes part of it, not just for us and for the students, but also, it becomes part of the curriculum. And then we know each course comprises the program. So the greater the challenges with each of these pieces, the potential for the outcomes at the end, it might impact the outcomes in the end. So something else we realize here is that students in the online environment look up to that course as a primary tool of communication. Did the professor post an announcement? Did the professor actually participate in the discussion? Did they respond to my work, to my homework, to my assignment, all of those? The platform becomes also a source of audits. And at some point, if we are looking at whether something was covered or not, internal audits for ourselves as we're looking to review content, or external, then it's either easy to find or not easy to find, or it's not even there. So having that thoughtful process from the beginning in terms of designing it and making it purposeful can really be helpful and help us achieve, the outcomes in the end a little better, with more ease, I should say. So it can impact instructors' creativity sometimes, because sometimes we might feel limited in what we can do. But if we stretch our thinking, there are other ways to be creative. And then something that we don't always think right away, because we might be thinking, well, I explained this correctly and I provided feedback. Well, the perception about the course comes in as a sum of all of the experiences the students have had. So if they see something that's not well organized, that might impact their perception and the evaluation of that professor, the course, or even the school. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. I provided this just simply so that you can look it up. There is actually a Quality Matters rubric, which basically is a checklist that professors can follow in terms of designing a course that looks and feels up to par. So some Canvas tools that I'm just going to bring them all up right now are navigation for desired layout. So what do you want first in the course? Do you want the syllabus, the modules, the groups? Do you want to include media? And then if you're including media, do you want to put them in media gallery or in the discussion or in another area? You can check for accessibility issues yourself. Right now, there is a tool that's possible to use in Canvas. It's called You Do It. And it checks for any issues that there might be, maybe broken links or things or more than that, actually. Another tool that I love is copy duplicate for certain modules. So that doesn't mean I'm copying everything, but before I actually populate everything, the structure remains the same. So I have my objectives, I have my reading materials, and I have my assessments all lined up without having to worry about misspellings and all of that. I do it once and then I copy that. Rubrics for increased clarity and expectation. It makes it really easy then to actually check boxes and students are clear on what they missed points on. Announcements, discussions, usually these are the more public places where we communicate with the students, but don't forget that the comment box in the grade area matters a lot. Many students actually will reach out and say, I read your comment and I know now where, I messed up. So make sure that you take advantage of these tools because they do increase the engagement with the students. And again, from a quality perspective, if they're getting feedback in different ways, as a group or individually, that is going to enhance overall quality of the classroom as well. There's also a tool that I haven't used yet, but I plan on using it. It's called Outcomes for Tracking Progress from one course to another. So basically, if you connect a rubric to that outcome, then you can track that outcome. Let's say it's something about data management that I teach in my courses, and I test it maybe at the lower level in my introductory level classes, but then I test it at a higher level, Bloom's level, at senior class. So I can track the progress there by using that tool. So now let's go into a little bit more detail on the approaches, basically, that could be used. The one that I really love and it guides me always is designing with the end in mind. So what are my desired course outcomes and what do we want the students to come out with? So once I have those, then it makes it easier to actually align correctly the objectives, course materials, assessments, and other activities. So I'm going to actually show you real quick how that looks like. So here's the course setup. And I start, all my modules are consistent. So I have the overview. I have my learning, lecture, reading, multimedia. This week has a quiz and the recording. Then again, overview, lecture, discussion, overview, lecture, and play pause it, and assignment. So I'm going to open one of these just to show how that works. I have my learning objectives for the week and how they contribute to the course objectives overall, which are in the syllabus. So then students can actually click on the readings and assignment or go this way. So here's the chapter readings, and here's the weekly recording, another video that they're provided with. And this week, I also provided them with some interactive video activities are called Play Pause It. Play Pause It actually shows them a short video that has embedded questions in it. So as they start playing the video, they will be prompted with questions, which I'm not going to play the video, but that's what it looks like. Okay, so if I go back, then they have another activity like that. And then if you remember, the objectives were about learning about teamwork and project management. So the activity they have as a group also is aligned. And then I have also put the objectives right there. And if I scroll down, I also have my rubric, so the students will know exactly what they're being graded on and how many points they can get for each of these. So that was just a little illustration of that. We are dealing although we refer a lot to pedagogy, we really are teaching adults at this point. So I focus my approach is really in adult learning, following the adult learning principles. For that reason, I want to make sure that the relevance is established and they know why, let's say, they are learning this database course or this performance improvement course. And I teach in the health information management program, just that as a reference here. Allowing them to share experiences is a really good thing, especially depending on the mix of the student population you have. I have a lot of students who already work in healthcare, so they bring a wealth of experience that can be useful in making the connections and boosting up the quality and actually building relevant content in the course. While they are adults and we might think we don't have to really, spell everything, they still appreciate the tasks that they're, have to do and the deliverables and who's going to do what. People just at this point, they just want that clarity to begin with so they can focus better and be more efficient, really. So the next 3 slides are about behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism. And I'm not going to lecture you about these because you already know them as potential approaches in your teaching, and they don't exclude each other. I just want to look at them from a perspective of Canvas. So if you're more trying to build these new behaviors so that students know they need to go and post on that discussion on a weekly basis, and they have to do it by Wednesday and things like that, then consider some of the Canvas tools, like push communication. Look at the grade book, see who has not posted yet, and it gives you the option to email, message, all of those individually or as a group, and just send that quickly so that you are building that behavior so they know they're going to post on time and not miss points for nothing. Monitor the reactions. So we want the number, we want them to participate, but we also want quality. So look at the quality of the responses, look at the reactions amongst each other. So build that sense of expectation, in that discussion area or through the assignments. But discussions usually, are the ones that typically need a little bit more push. Okay, so with the assignments, the same thing, or even with the quizzes, you can even use this method to actually promote positivity. So quick nudges that are positive, like, I see you got 100% in your quiz, kudos, and keep it up. Even if something such as that, it doesn't cost us much because the tool is there. You just select those that got a certain percentage on the quiz in Canvas, and you just push that message right away. And by the way, you could save those templates and then just personalize them, customize them for next year when you still teach the course, the same course. Now, in the online environment, we are dealing a little more with self-directed learners, and still we have to try to contribute to develop their critical thinking skills. And so basically you have these adults that know what they're doing, especially in the courses I have. They already have chosen their field of study, which is health information management. But how do I develop their critical thinking skills? I need to direct their attention to specific areas that are going to contribute towards, again, those bigger objectives that I have. So at the end, they come out with the skills they need to work in the profession. I can't have them wandering throughout the web, scattering information here and there. So offering them smaller chunks of material, which I select, and then perhaps offering criteria for whatever they select, so it's reliable, that is going to help them stay on target, but also providing the activities that are aligned with progressive complexity that is going to help them stretch their mind and their thinking. So once you have that content created, then you can actually tweak it. You can sequence it differently if you think it didn't work that well this time. So the tool itself, Canvas, provides us, gives us that ability, and it just makes it a little more efficient, in my opinion. And it's easier when it's all there. Students could even go back and connect the dots themselves. A little more here, sometimes depending on the course, you might want, if it's a graduate course, you might want the students to be the ones to actually build the content. So in that case, all you do is provide them with what they need to achieve, and of course the framework, and then you don't have to do as much work in building content. Let's say rather than having you selecting a lot of articles and readings, then you have them contributing to that pool of resources. Something else that really works well for me is interactive storytelling. And it was mentioned earlier, experiential learning in one of the sessions earlier on today is something that really resonates with students and works well. So when there is something real or almost real, it makes it more appealing for the students to actually reflect, analyze, synthesize, and overall use that critical thinking. So in the discussion board, you could use that, that style. It's typed, or you could do a video, so you could use sound, and then help the students that way. So again, the Canvas tool can actually make it possible so that students show a little more interest, perhaps, and are more engaged. Throughout this process, I find that it's really important to collaborate with my colleagues, especially for our program. We need to do reviews for the students at the end so that we have a sense of how prepared they are for the certification exam. So it's nice to have Canvas as a tool, because then I can perhaps collaborate with my with my colleagues and say, okay, it seems like the students need a little bit more review on the matter of on this issue on disease processes. Let's say that's an area that they're not scoring well. Then I can take some of that content and import it for review in my review course. So that level of collaboration, I know happens in general, but it becomes a little more efficient in terms of the manual work that's involved if we use Canvas properly. I mentioned multimedia and I showed you a little bit. I'm going to ask you a quick question here. How many of you use, I'm sure all of you use videos. Actually, the poll question is how long your videos are. And the reason I ask that is because research shows that students drop out when the videos are too long. In my Canvas tools, I can see the analytics. I'm sure you can too. And I see that some of the videos are watched to the end and some other videos are not. So, just keep that in mind when you're determining the multimedia, how relevant it is, how appealing it is, and then whether, it is being used to enhance or something, or maybe just to really build the core content that you want them to build. I also use it as an assessment tool through PlayPosit. So you might consider that as well, because it helps with engagement and reinforcing some of the knowledge that the students are getting. Did we get any responses on the use of multimedia? And if not, it's okay. I'm almost done. So a couple more things I have. Sometimes, depending on your nature, we might tend to either give students a lot of stuff to read, and we type a lot. There is a type lecture, there is readings, and there is a video. And when they're bombarded like that, it might actually create a barrier in them starting to think for themselves. However, sometimes trying to push the envelope and we say, well, let them figure it out. That's another way. We might not give them enough, so they are left wondering, and some reach out, some don't. So finding that balance is really important, and that is going to vary depending on your student population, the course level, the nature of the course. So just be aware of that and see, how much you are providing to them. also be aware, whatever you're typing, like if you have to update something and you have it in multiple places in the course, then you're going to have a lot more work in updating that course as well. The last thing I have is to balance creativity and uniformity. I know consistency is desired, in terms of finding things quick and easy, but sometimes just switching it up, changing it up, spicing it up is going to be helpful with students and us, and it makes it less boring, more appealing, more interesting. So I'm hoping that this actually just sparked a little bit of thinking beyond just having the basics in the course, but trying to make it more connected throughout,